It is 6 p.m., and I'd like to call the Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting of May 11th to order. Every commissioner is present, and so if you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item is citizen comment period. Do we have anyone signed up? No, we do not. Okay. You will be able to make comments at the end of the meeting if you so choose. But you only have 2 minutes then instead of 3. So, business items. Approval of minutes for March 8th, 2022, Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting. Does anyone have any edits, comments? If not, could I please have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes
For March 8th.
for March 8th.
Second? Have a second. All in favor? Okay. And they are approved. Items applicable to the Planning and Zoning Commission discussed at the April or May City Council meetings. For March, Tri-Hydro mentioned that they had started the design of the water line relocation along FM 2252. And in addition, that TxDOT provided the updated schematic for the extended project limits through the intersection of FM 2252 and FM 3009. And they updated the drainage design. There were 2 other items, 2 land development projects. The Bat Cave Road Master Development Plan, but no details were given for that. And the Guadalupe Ready Mix, the Master Development Plan by Guadalupe Ready Mix has been reviewed by the city engineer and comments have been provided to the developer's engineer. In April, for the May meeting, but on April 20th, pretty much the same 2 items were brought up by the city engineer, and on the design of the water line relocation, our city engineer has made comments to TxDOT, but they're still waiting to hear back. And that's all I have for those 2 items. I do want to bring up one other item that would have been discussed in April, but is now going to be discussed in May, because I think many of the commissioners, if you have no idea yet what's going on, I know you're confused about the fact that the last couple of meetings there have been, the city council is now acting in its capacity of Board of Adjustments, and they are hearing variances, okay? So if possible, could our city attorney give us a little more background on that? Because it just kind of like happened.
Right. So one of the things that we have been giving notice to P&Z as we've been coming forward through the planning and zoning process is that the processes as they were originally adopted back in the 80s, thereabouts, when Ordinance 13 first went into effect, had a procedure in there where P&Z in effect would act as city staff and make a recommendation to council. Fast forward many years later, as we were working through the processes of updating the city's ordinances, we made that determination that those pieces were still in there and that no longer complies with the requirements of the local government code. And so we thought we would have the new planning and zoning ordinance in place, and we thought we were going to have that in place before some of these variances were going to actually be coming through. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened. But because we do have variances and those laws have changed, we've got to ensure that the city complies with the actual requirements of the local government code because we are a type A general law city. And so it's incumbent on us that we have to follow the rules under the local government code. So those processes, like I said, anybody that's requesting a variance of zoning will go through the actual processes in the local government code. So it's a little bit different than what y'all are used to. Now, zoning and a zoning variance is different from a variance from the development requirements under the subdivision regulations or any of the development regulations. And so those processes, can still require coming before planning and zoning as such. So it will just be dependent on what type of variance is being put forth before the city.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay, so I do. So there, in the couple of city council meetings before this last one, before the May one, a resident brought in a variance request. And it wasn't zoning or anything, but see, my understanding was all variances were going to go to city council now. That's not the case?
No, that's not necessarily the case.
Okay.
The Board of Adjustment applies to zoning variances.
Okay, so this last individual that came before city council, though, it was not a zoning, it had to do with infraction of an easement.
Right, so if it was not a zoning, if it was not a variance from the zoning request, it doesn't necessarily have to go to the zoning board of adjustment.
Okay.
Remember, city council will serve, in different capacities.
Right. Okay, so again, it will depend on city
Right.
administrator looking at the particular variance request and then determining, did it need to go straight to the Board of Adjustments, or does it come before?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Now I understand. Thank
Very
you.
good.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Ma'am, if I get a little clarity on it, so we're the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm wondering if our title would then eventually change for this commission. And then I'm wondering, so the variances is things that we would look at. Would we also play a role with a pre-look on some of those changes with, the easement, I'll call it an infraction for lack of a better term? Can you provide some clarity there?
So planning and zoning, your duties are different. As a commission, your duties are different than the zoning board of adjustment. And so there are some duties that planning and zoning will continue to have in the role of, planning capacities, and development of the city. But again, it is only those duties that fall to the zoning board of adjustment, which is hearing a request for a zoning variance that will go to ZBOA. You guys will still continue, in your capacity as an advisory commission and as your planning portion of your planning and zoning commission duties.
So then if a variance is brought forward, how will that be vetted then to decide? I guess I'm looking at the time and schedule. How will that be vetted to provide ample amount of time for pre-screeners? I'll say we're pre-screeners, planning and zoning, to give the city council enough time to think, review, digest some of the remarks and all that, say, this panel would bring up before they then make a determination.
So there's no real change other than if it is a zoning variance, it will bypass B&Z and go straight to council. So city engineer will have reviewed it, Nancy will have reviewed it, they will have those comments, that information goes forward to council in a packet. So those processes don't change. Yeah.
I have a quick question. So if I'm getting this correct, basically, if there's any type of development or anything else that's going on within the city of Garden Ridge, it's going to come to us. We're going to basically be the third set of eyes to make sure that it's within compliance within our master development plan. But then if there is a variance, it's going to go straight for the adjustment to city council, or if we identify potential problems, then it goes to city council with that. Is that a fair assumption?
Except for the last part, yes, because there are still some things that will come to planning and zoning first before it proceeds on to city council. But again, things that are zoning variance, Zoning Board of Adjustments. Things that are a variance from subdivision regulations, P and Z with City Council being the final decision-making authority.
Thank you very
Well,
much.
I have a question.
Sorry.
Are we going to find out before or after the fact? I know that last month, or the month before last, it was more, yeah, deer in the headlights type thing, because all of a sudden it was appearing before city council. And I'm saying, well, wait a minute, where do we fit in? And I don't want to wait. I don't know if it's fair to us as a commission to wait to the next meeting, which is another month, to find out what went on. That's
Watch
just
it
the way I look at it.
online.
I'm
If you
sorry?
don't- If you don't attend the meeting on
City council.
streaming, city council, then you can also watch it online and you will know right then. Or you can look at the agenda.
Still, you're after the fact. Somebody
No.
asks me about it, I'll say, oh, what are you talking about, until we have the the city council meeting.
Well,
So I'm not sure that I understand the question, Dr. Miller.
Like last month, I had no idea what was going on until after the city council meeting, okay? Yeah.
Right, okay, so if I'm understanding your question, I guess what I will say to you is, you are correct. If it is a request for a zoning variance, the only way that you will know as a sitting body is the way that the rest of us do, which is at the time that council makes its decision, that's when we're all in the know about how they're handling that particular variance request.
Nancy?
Maybe for a little bit of clarification, planning and zoning will continue hearing requests for changes in zoning classifications, but specific things within those zoning classifications, such as side yard setbacks or any kind of building setback, height of a building, perhaps the reduction for the size of a lot, something along the lines of impervious cover, those things will be going straight to the Board of Adjustment. Y'all will still be hearing master development plans like you will tonight. You will still have plating coming before you. Y'all will still be involved in any amendments that may be coming forward to a zoning ordinance. We also have a subdivision ordinance that y'all have purview in, and y'all have the ability to grant variances associated with that ordinance. But y'all still are going to be hearing y'all will still hear special use permits. So there are a lot of things that will still be coming before you, but it's just going to be some of those particular requirements that are applicable to a zoning district that y'all may not be, that will have to go straight to the Board of Adjustment. I hope that helped provide a little bit of clarification.
And I just say, the city council agenda comes out days before city council. You can find out right then if they are going to be looking at a particular variance and why. And then you can attend the meeting so you know what's going on, or you can watch streaming, or you can watch it afterwards, the day later, online, and you'll know. And I think you'll be able to understand a little bit. It's new. All this is a little new. I mean, it's been going on for probably since at least January or February, but it's still new. We're still kind of treading through this, so.
Right,
get
right.
it.
And like I say, this is one of the big changes that it was proposed in the draft ordinance. And so, we will eventually get our ordinance married up with the practices.
And with state law, right? Isn't that the
That's
real
the big-
big
yes.
clicker up there is state law? We got to
Right.
match that, okay.
Right.
hate to beat a dead horse. My point is, we wouldn't have a chance to talk about it or discuss it until we hear it at city council. At city council, do we stand up as a private citizen and address our concerns? Or I guess we have to stand up at
Right,
citizen
so,
comment.
so as a board, y'all will still have input in, to all of those pieces, except if it is an actual request for a variance from the zoning regulation.
So if I have a problem with it, or where I think it's heading, I
You
should
would
stand-
show up
I sh-
at the public
city
hearing
council,
and
public
provide
hearing.
comments, and yes,
Okay.
yes.
Because before, there's been times in the past when I've had to hold my tongue, so to speak, because I said, well, if I'm a representative of the commission, I shouldn't be saying some of the things that I think. It's just, it's not right, let's put it that way. But now I know when I should say something if I have a problem with it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
That's a good point, because I know, for example, that we have learned that city council members cannot come up to the podium and say something as a citizen because they always wear the hat of city council. Is it the same for a commission or not? I just want to be clear. Because I've done the same thing. I've wanted to say something, but I didn't because I thought, no, because I'm on P&Z. You know, so clear as day, can we say something as private citizens? Or are we always wearing our P&Z hat?
So what I will say is, I don't know that it's that cut and dry.
Okay.
What I can tell you for sure is that a council member may not step off the dais during a council meeting and say, I am now going to speak at citizens' comment because I want to ambush my fellow council
No,
members,
we
or I
understand.
want to voice an unpopular position, and that's much different than the question that you posed.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So in a meeting that we have nothing to do with, if, say, Dr. Miller wants to make a comment as a private citizen sitting out in the audience, he can. You know, it has nothing to do with the fact that he's on P&Z.
Right, right. So if Dr. Miller wants to show up at the Water Commission and go up at citizens' comments and speak, speak to whatever's happening at Water Commission, more power to you. But Dr. Miller cannot get off the dais as
Oh.
during a planning and zoning meeting and say, I'm now going to speak as a citizen's comment. Right.
I think we understand that. But how about at a city council meeting?
And so there again, if it is something that the planning and zoning had purview over and it's coming before city council, then our best recommendation would be no.
Right.
Because you had that opportunity as an actual member who had the entire floor and the entire option to discuss something.
But if it goes straight to the Board of Adjustments, and we have not had an opportunity to look at it, to see it till that point,
You can show up at the public hearing
and speak as a citizen.
and speak as a citizen.
Thank you so much. Is it clear now? I think I'm clear.
Last point is, should we state a disclaimer before we speak?
That's never a bad idea.
Okay. For instance, I should say, I'm speaking as a private citizen, not as a member of the planning and zoning. That's what I mean.
Yes, and again, that never a bad idea.
Thank you so much, Cynthia.
You
We
bet.
really appreciate it. Okay, next item, 5C, Master Development Plan for Guadalupe Ready Mix, LLC, for the development of a concrete batch plant on property located at 20762 FM 2252 in Garden Ridge, Texas. Do we have any representatives from Guadalupe Ready Mix, or someone who is their representative? Could you please come to the podium and give us some background on this? I'm right behind you, right?
All right, perfect. How y'all doing this evening? My name is Kirk Campbell. I'm representing Guadalupe Ready Mix. I'm their civil engineer. We also have some people from Guadalupe Ready Mix. If I can't answer a question, I may defer to them, but As you guys probably see, we submitted a master plan on their behalf for a ready-mix batch plant on the piece of property. It's located directly across the 2252 from Hanson there, and it's a piece of property that they're leasing from Hanson. I think it's currently zoned industrial, and it's pretty basic ready-mix concrete plant. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with those types of facilities. I like to tell my kids that they're like big mixing bowls. They just take a couple of raw materials and mix them up, and they put them in a truck, and it goes out to a job site for constructing all the things that we like to use in our constructed environment. So as you can see from the layout of the plan, there's the mixing plant itself in the middle, and then you've got some yard storage for truck traffic and the rock and sand and the components of the ready-mix operation. We put the plan together. I think we've coordinated with the city engineer, put together a detention design, which is represented on here as far as making sure we're keeping in compliance with the drainage ordinance. And we got the site set way back from 2252, so it's kind of in the back of the property. So.
Okay, you're still at the podium. So now I'd like to turn it over to the commission for any questions you may have for Mr. Campbell or someone else from Guadalupe Ready Mix if you can't answer. So I open it up for questions.
I got a couple of questions, and thank you very much for being here. One of the primary question, of course, is traffic. Because according to, there's going to be like up to 200 trucks or truck movements a day. Is that correct?
I think that number is correct. It can be, they come, typically a ready-mix plant starts kind of early in the morning and it runs to about 3 o'clock as the primary traffic for vehicles. You have the drivers and the staff come in the morning, and then the trucks leave and go deliver concrete, and they come in and out, batch, and then leave, right? So.
Absolutely. Now, the follow-on with that is there's 30 trucks assigned to Guadalupe Ready Mix. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's probably the maximum number, depending on market. I don't anticipate they'll have that many at the beginning, but we put the maximum in there.
Is that the only trucks you'll be servicing or providing a ready mix for?
I don't believe, I knew you were going to ask, I don't believe y'all sell ready mix to a third party to come batch at y'all's plants. Some producers do that. They don't have that in their business plan.
I'm just asking.
No, my name is Jeff Shea. I'm
Okay.
the general manager for Guadalupe Ready Mix. No, all we're supplying is ourselves.
Okay.
And to customers in the community and surrounding communities. All of our aggregate traffic will only just cross the street from Hanson.
Okay.
And so really the only traffic is the mixer traffic.
Okay. And that's kind of what I was thinking. Now, because basically now I'm not going to say easement, but the stack, you can stack up to 30 vehicles on the drive, correct?
In that, well, the drive is about 1,000 feet long.
Right.
So trucks will be in on that 3 acres that we have paved, and then there might be some out on that drive. And so, I mean, the trucks are coming and going in a normal rotation. So typically what will be on site is 10 or fewer. The rest will be out on delivery.
Correct. And that's actually the point is, what if there's a breakdown of either one of your guys' truck or a truck that comes in, and because is there only one access and egress to the plant?
They'd be parked on site. I mean,
Okay.
in a
And then
parking
all
area.
the backup traffic, where are they going?
There would be no backup traffic to the road at all.
Well, I'm curious, you're saying like somebody breaks down like on the entrance road?
Right.
On the driveway?
Right.
The driveway is wide enough. I mean, even if there was somebody parked there broken down, they would just move around them.
Yes.
Right.
That was my
So
biggest.
it wouldn't back up traffic.
Okay, because that's one of the biggest concerns a couple of us had, because traffic's bad enough on FM 2252.
Yes.
It really is. It's narrow, and the amount of traffic that's going to be incorporated from the ready mix. not just from your guys', 6 runs a day at minimum, to also all the trucks and everything else come up in with supplies. If there's a breakdown and trucks are coming in and they start backing up, where are they going? Is there an alternative route? Or is there a potential alternative secondary or primary and secondary access and egress to the batch plant?
We
So-
operate other locations, and that's, it's never been an issue.
Okay.
Similar truck counts. There's enough space on our site to accommodate all of our own trucks.
Okay. That was,
And I think part of our intent with that, the answer to that question where we said that up to 30 trucks could stack on the road was kind of to illustrate that if there's a traffic problem on 2252, that it really just hurts them because the trucks are stuck there on their own road waiting to turn out, and they've got plenty of room to stack up their trucks. It doesn't cause a big
Yeah.
issue, more trucks than they would
I
probably
was,
need.
I was also thinking
Yeah.
trucks that are not on the road coming in.
Well, like material trucks and
Yeah.
things like that. Well, material trucks are coming just across the street. So
Okay.
if there was an issue, they could just stage over there. It's because it's such a short turn for those vehicles.
Yeah.
There's only gonna be turning 2 trucks a day
Okay,
for materials, because they can make a lot of deliveries.
okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for providing us this information. I do have a question. I still wasn't too clear on your master development plan regarding, you show on your master plan one large detention pond, but I think in your memo to Ms. Kane or to the city engineer, you mentioned there's 2 ponds, and I don't see like a break or another pond there identified.
Okay, yeah, so and this is a common setup for ready-mix sites, that there's, if you kind of zoom in there, there's a, we call it a recycle structure or a kind of washout structure, depending on the name of it right there, the recycle structure. That's actually a basin that holds water. It's a pond, it's just a concrete lined
All
pond.
recycles.
When we do, for drainage design, we don't take credit for it in the drainage. So from trying to meet the drainage criteria, we only use the pond you see that's named pond. And then the other one is extra. It's, all the water for the site is drained to that.
To the main.
And we try to catch it. They recycle a bunch of the water back to the batch plant. And we try to catch as much as we can. But when we do the drainage design to meet the ordinances, we don't take that into account. So it's actually very conservative because we're catching all the water in that recycle structure, recycling it back. But we have, there may be, it's possible at some point that could be full. And so we want to make sure that the pond operates on its own and the main pond operates on its own and can meet all the drainage criteria.
Okay.
So that's where the 2 ponds comes in. It's that
Got it.
recycle
Okay.
structure
Sorry,
acting
it
as a
was a little difficult to
pre-pond.
read, or on the printout, it didn't come out too clear, so you
Okay.
really had to, but thank you for clarifying that. On the large pond, as far as sediment is concerned, what is that kind of maintenance? Is there a requirement, or is there going to be some type of maintenance for sediment removal?
So all the sediment is captured in the first pond. That's where we'll wash, rinse trucks as they're loaded, and at the end of the day, they wash down in those ponds. And from there, we recycle from there. And so really anything that would make it to the last pond there, that's
The big one.
labeled pond,
Uh-huh.
will have gone through that weir system, and really most of the fines, virtually all the fines will have been captured in
Okay.
the first set of ponds, first set of weirs.
My last question on the pond. I do see that there's a 100-year floodplain that it is crossing, or where the pond is being proposed. Is there, have you done a flood study for the modification of that floodplain?
We haven't done a full flood study on this yet. I think there's a floodway defined here, so we haven't gone into the floodway. So we're just in the periphery of the floodplain, but we haven't done a full flood study yet.
Oh, because I think it's a Zone A, if
Mhm.
I'm correct. Okay. So is that something the city will be requiring, Nancy? I'm just a little concerned with the, Union Pacific Railroad, if that's going to have any impact with that, because it's an unstudied floodplain, right? I couldn't find, or is there?
I don't have the map in front of me. I don't remember. There's some floodway defined in part of this where it's already been studied. I don't remember what in this stretch.
Oh, okay.
We can get that information for you if we need to. But
I was just curious if a floodplain permit will be required.
we intend to coordinate with Comal County and whatever we need to do to work in the floodplain. I mean, we'll have to do that with Comal County. We know that for sure.
Oh, wouldn't it be with the city? It would be with the
Are
city.
you all
of
the
Garden.
administrator for that one?
We are administrator of the floodplain.
Okay.
Is
Then
the city engineer.
Then we would work with y'all, city engineer.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question about the whole piece of property. What are your plans in the future? Obviously, you're just using that back, really not even quarter, like sixth almost of the property. Development, leasing, selling some, what are your,
Well, the property's owned by Hanson. I mean, currently, we don't have any
okay.
plans.
So it's
for-
not your property at all anyway?
It is not, we're leasing
Okay.
the property.
Okay,
from
there you go,
Hanson.
your lease. Okay. Well, that's a good thing to know. And then, my other question, as far as the traffic, it's obvious from where you're located that to reach the highway would be easier to go up 2252 and turn back to go to the highway, and I don't know what that particular road is.
482,
Is it 482?
I think. Or 440.
Well,
Versus-
2252 turns back south, or back toward the highway.
Right,
And then
versus
it
going,
ties in.
you know, I understand that inevitably, some of your traffic is gonna go down 2252 towards 3009, Garden Ridge, heading up to the Canyon Lake area, or, you know, just that direction.
Yes.
You know, nobody can help that. I mean, there's no way, we don't want you to take some circumnavigation course to get where you need to go. But I just want to understand that, or let me ask you this, are the majority of your trucks gonna be leaving and accessing 35 to go to their destination, or what is your feeling as to where they're gonna?
I think the bulk of our target market is in between 35 and I-10.
Okay,
And so in the Braunfels Shirts location, really. I
Okay.
mean, the amount of growth in this area is a
Right.
much slower growth. And so that's really our target market over there. Of course, occasionally there's going to be something coming up there.
absolutely.
And so,
So what is your guess as far as percentage of traffic that will go up to 42 and out to the highway, or just up to 42 and not even enter Garden Ridge versus going straight down to Garden Ridge and, you know, going north, going down 2252, or accessing the highway from 3009?
I think it's a pretty low percentage. I mean, I will say 20%, unless for some reason there is a traffic issue on 35
Right.
or something like that.
Yeah, of course, we understand that. I mean,
Yeah.
I think, to me, that's the big issue is traffic, and I think we've heard it a few times
Sure.
already, so, yeah.
I understand.
All right, well, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, gentlemen, on the topic of traffic, I do want to ask a couple more questions with that. So the operation, from my understanding, can have about 200 trucks or 200 trips per day, 200 trips per day, using 30 trucks approximately? Is that right?
It'd be 100, it could be up to 100 trips exiting our site, so the trucks would return. That's where you come up with the 200 number,
Okay.
you know.
I read on the internet, of course, you got to be careful, right, what you read, but it sounds like a normal or typical or average concrete batch plant operates at about 75 trips per day, maybe 80 trips per day. Is that what you understand? So this is like at 2.5, 2.5 times the capacity of, or will be operating at, what's known as a typical or normal operation. Is that right?
Well, I think the 100 trips is a high number. I think the average is going to be between probably 50 and 65 trips per day
Okay.
is on average.
typically when we put these together, and we have to work with TxDOT here as well for 2252, I mean, they ask us for what's your maximum traffic. So those are the numbers we're giving.
Yeah.
You know, on an average day, you know, they won't produce that much concrete, you won't have those trucks, but we're being asked by, you know, the other regulations to say, okay, what's your maximum trip? And that's what they want to know. So that's where we come up with the 200. So we're trying to give you this is the maximum day, not the average day.
Okay. And then a great question on the ingress egress. I didn't think about the Canyon Lake trips, you know, going up 3009. But my question is in particular about the traffic again, maybe a little bit more detailed. So trucks leaving that property are going to pull out on the 2252. They can either go left or right. If they go right, which I think is mostly eastbound, they'll probably take that next road to their right, which is 482, which is where a lot of Hanson traffic is egressing from the plant, the quarry. There's 2 railroad tracks there. Then you have all the trucks. I've been on that road a couple times. I travel on that road quite a few times. There's a lot of Hanson trucks there. I would imagine that the concrete trucks are just going to add to, I'll call it potential congestion there. In addition, the railroad tracks, you got 2 of them. I'll call it double jeopardy, and they both operate. So you can have a train coming through that will, you know, cause traffic to stop. But in addition to that, I've seen trains stop right there where the train is actually stopped, you know, 0 miles an hour. And you're just waiting there indefinitely of, okay, when's this train going to move? And it takes some time to then move again. So my particular question is, because I envision, from what I read in your paperwork, that probably the majority of traffic is going to be pulling out of that property, making a left-hand turn, going towards the intersection of 2252 and 3009, and then heading towards 35, maybe proceeding west, making a left, going south towards 35, or making a right turn, heading into the hill country. Would that be a safe assumption?
Well, I mean, let me just kind of go back up just a little bit. The plant's capacity to load trucks is about 18 trucks an hour. The typical is going to be 8 to 10 trucks per hour. So I'm not sure that that's I'm not sure what y'all measure as a large burden of traffic, but that is the typical for us to be producing. It's about 100 cubic yards an hour. That's 10 loads. That is a standard for that plant, even though it's capable of more. It would have to be a project that is located extremely close. There was it would be like a large warehouse project where they could produce that, they could place that kind of, product. So our typical average of vehicles on the road is that, so it's
Okay, from what I
but yeah,
understand.
I mean, would we go all different directions? We could, but train traffic, I haven't studied that, so I don't know how bad of an issue it is, but.
Yeah, there's a portion of Garden Ridge residents that are concerned about the traffic there already.
Right.
So I can only imagine, this is just my assumption, that if they have the idea that concrete trucks are going to be in and out of there quite a bit, we'll use the 80, a day, between the hours of 1 a.m. to 3 p.m., is that right? That would probably cause some frustration for folks, in addition to just the hazard of a concrete truck, I'll call it a hazard, being on the road. There is a lot of debris already from Hanson trucks, not that you guys will, but I can only imagine there's going to be some debris, coming off the trucks, if you will. And then, there's a Danville Middle School over there, and there's quite a few parents, mothers, fathers, kids in the car. Even though we have busing, they still drive them over there. That they travel right by the proposed entrance to the batch plant, and they have to wait there on occasion, at those railroad tracks. So if I was a driver, I wouldn't make a right-hand turn to leave that concrete batch plant. I would make a left-hand turn, go to 2252, and roll from there, because I wouldn't want to take a chance of being stuck at the railroad tracks, from my experience. So just as a note, I think that might build some frustration with folks in the community, and not only that, just a hazard. But
Can I ask if there's anyone else, and then we can come back to you?
I do have another question, I guess, and I'll get to it. Because actually, I noticed your recycle center, and I think our structure, and it's an awesome idea. I'm retired Army, and every military, majority of Army posts have them. That's where we come back from the field, we'll wash them with recycled water, make it easy, big power spray and everything else. However, they do have a tendency to gum up, jam up, and basically cleaning them is not always easy. So I guess my question is, what could be a prohibitor for that actually doing this job and collecting the water and not just clogging up from a big storm and continuing on running down to the additional pond or wherever else?
The sediment pond is ramped at one end.
Okay.
And the water depth is only 3 feet deep. And so it's serviced with a front end loader to, service any fines and things like that have to come out of there. I mean, we'll be making decorative concrete blocks with leftover concrete so that we put as little in there as possible.
Okay.
It's simply just to finish rinse the trucks, to be honest.
Okay.
So we're trying to recover as much as we can. And so we'll sell those decorative blocks.
Yeah.
You've probably seen them in places.
Okay.
But they're large concrete blocks with a textured face, and they get used for retention walls and things like that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Most of my questions have been answered for the most part. But ties in with what I was talking about earlier in terms of development out 3009 and Bat Cave Road. I'm sure as businessmen, you guys, if not at your level, somewhere within the hierarchy of your company, knows that there's going to be a market, okay? And my question was, what was the capacity? You've answered that. The hours, somewhat confused because I heard somebody say 1 a.m. to 3 p.m. Or did you say?
What are your operating?
Yeah, what hours?
I mean, I think a typical day is more like, I mean, we could open as early as 1 a.m., but a typical day is more like 5 a.m. to 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and we're off the
Okay.
roads. We
Seven-
want to target being in traffic only one time a day.
Okay. 7 days a week?
No, it'd be 5 days a week with occasional Saturdays.
Okay. Future capacity on that property, you said this is one phase, it's only going to be one phase. Have you guys looked at it in terms of increasing capacity if necessary on that piece of property? You got 33 acres, you're only using 4 acres?
We didn't permit for that.
Okay.
Really, we're looking for other sites and other areas. So we're not planning for that.
May I go next? Traffic has been mentioned several times. 2252, as you know, is a 2-lane road.
Yes.
And I-35, which I'm sure you know, in the next few years, they're going to be working on 35, okay? Oh, and by the way, on 2252, just by Evans Road and, before you get to Evans Road where there's a railroad track, they're also going to be working on 2252. That's going to cause a lot of problems, because once they're working again on, or continue on 2252 and supposedly doing a bridge over the railroad track, again, I said supposedly, that's going to cause traffic issues for anyone trying to avoid I-35. And I can tell you from experience right now, people will do anything to avoid I-35. right now. Every morning and every afternoon, people coming home, you can just get out on your car and look at the map, and it's all red. So what happens? You can see the traffic coming down or going west on 3009, and what they're doing is they're queuing up to turn left onto 2252. In the morning, which is during your operating hours, hopefully that would be after your operating hours in the afternoon. But traffic is going to be something you're going to hear over and over and over, because already we get a lot of traffic from Hanson, where they're not even supposed to come to 3009, but they do. So unless we had a police officer standing, there before you get to 3009 and say, nope, turn around, they're going to do it because it's the avenue of least resistance to get where they're going. I heard you say local vicinity, maybe up New Braunfels and stuff, so you don't provide to San Antonio? A little
Yeah,
further
we
in?
do provide to San Antonio,
Okay.
of course we do.
Okay,
But
well,
mean,
I wanted to
our-
make sure what I
Our
heard.
target area is from Schertz to New Braunfels between 35 and I-10.
Okay, so.
That's our target market.
Okay, so in your, and you work with the trucks and all, right? You're in that capacity with the
Yes.
trucks, okay. Do you have anything in your mind about telling truckers to turn right to 482 and get on 35, whether they're going to Schertz or whether, because they can get right off in Schertz right there, or go into New Braunfels? But that's going to cause a problem, but
Yeah.
you might
I mean,
find less
truck-
resistance.
So whether the trucks originate with me, they're originating from somebody. And they still come through your community. At least in this capacity, we're part of your community, and we can, be more in tune with what you're doing. But the trucks are still coming through your community one way or the other. And they're still going to look for ways to avoid traffic
Exactly.
and things like that nature. So,
Well, if that's the case, then in the morning, they will come down 2252, if they're looking to avoid traffic. Because the traffic
if,
on I-35 in the morning gets stacked up going south, or going toward San Antonio. I mean, you can see it red every single morning. So, it doesn't leave them much option.
well, that's what a dispatch is for, so that they can direct those vehicles.
Down
They
2252.
down.
Okay, one other
No,
question
it-
on
it
this.
is- It is, so they're, dispatch is taking orders and they're planning their trucking based on traffic, based on the times that customers want deliveries. And so they make accommodations for whatever that is. And so if a customer is asking for a certain volume of concrete at a certain time, if we have to take a path that is there's, regardless of the roads, traffic is always high at that time of day. At 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., it's always high. And so what it means is we just have to direct more vehicles to deal with that traffic problem. So.
What do you mean direct more
Well,
vehicles?
so-
You'll direct
so
more
if-
vehicles?
So if a project is 10 miles away and they want concrete at a certain volume, right? Then we base that on the distance and the turnaround time for those vehicles. And so as that traffic goes up, then we direct more vehicles through that traffic to get to that project, so that customer still sees what he needs. If it was a different direction, there was lighter traffic, there would be fewer trucks servicing them, because they are able to get there and get back much quicker. But it doesn't, if there was a concrete placement at the corner of 3009 and 2252, it probably wouldn't make much sense to go all the way to 35 and loop all the way around.
Okay, so let me just ask this. Has your company or Westward Environmental Engineering for Guadalupe Ready Mix, have you done a traffic impact study?
We have not at this time.
Okay. Okay, a couple of other, oh, a couple of other questions that I have, just reading your answers to the city engineer. It says, there was a question regarding truck emissions. And the answer had to be, was all vehicles will be located on property, not on the road on 2252. So my question was, well, while the trucks are in queue, do they remain running? Are they running?
Depends. They do not if they're going to be on standby more than 5 minutes. And that's just a fuel cost issue right there. We turn them off. And so only if they're going to be there longer than 5 minutes do they turn the trucks off.
Okay. And there was another question with regard to, will there be a sound barrier along FM 2252? And the answer was, well, there's natural landscaping already there, trees and things. So my impression was that those trees are going to remain. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that provides a natural barrier and hopefully reduces some of the sound. Okay, there was another question that regarding a septic system, and it said that a septic system should not be located within 150 feet of any water well. And it says verify that there are no water wells within 150 feet of the septic system, I guess, that you're planning. And the question was, or the answer was, there are no known water wells located within the 150 feet of the proposed system. So that's not really an answer, right? As far as you know, there's not. But how do we find out whether there is or isn't?
Well, I guess it's probably just engineering speak, probably our way we answered it, but,
Like,
I mean, we checked the
yes or
state,
no?
we checked the state records for well records, none were there.
Okay.
We've been on the site, we can't see any evidence of any wells.
Okay.
I mean, so I maybe apologize for engineering speak, we kind of always cover our bases, and so we said no known water wells, but we've been on the site, we checked the state water records, no wells were drilled that have a record there, so.
Okay, because that's also important to the city. Okay, let's see if there was anything else. I guess that's all I have. Does anyone? Yeah.
I do. The chair had mentioned about the natural screening, but you also mentioned about the batch plant will have a like a concrete wall or some type of concrete blocks.
Yeah.
And you gave an example. How high are you going? Are you going as high as that batch plant is, which is what, 30 plus feet?
No, sir.
30.
We'll only go up about 8 feet.
8 feet?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's probably enough to cover, to lessen the noise?
So on the stockpiles and wall will be on in between the plant and 2252. And then just as we continue to produce and can make more blocks, we'll just continue around the site.
If you go back to the site plan, you can see, yeah, there. So the north side of where the plant is, the north side where it says stockpiles, that entire north wall is the bins we're talking about. So that entire north side is that 8-foot tall
okay.
wall. So it's between the plant and the whole yard is south of that, and
Okay, I was
Yeah, it's-
envisioning like a wall around the batch plant, but no, it would be where the stockpile is,
yeah.
around 8
Yes,
feet.
sir.
That's the highest you're gonna go? Right, roughly?
Probably 10 would be the highest we would go.
Okay.
Is 10 feet.
Is this wall considered a fence?
It holds the stockpiles, that's what it's there for.
It holds the
Yeah, that's
stockpile?
its primary purpose, is to hold the stockpiles.
Okay, but it's not acting as a fence?
No. It's not preventing any
Because
access. or anything.
maximum height on a fence is 6 feet.
Yeah.
Okay.
once again, I definitely appreciate, and I think what a lot of us who have talked about traffic is, it's not just traffic and it's frustrating and it slows down, but it's also a really big safety concern, I'm sure for all of us, because it is a two-lane road, and there are some pretty good curves. And last I remember, that area, there's a stretch where it's like 45 miles an hour. They just literally reduced it not that long ago because of some fatalities. So now we're mixing regular vehicles with some big trucks too, which is, I mean, it happens, but sometimes it's the precautions. Does that make sense? You just making sure that there's definitely precautions and taking precautions, because that's one of my concerns, is just a big truck going a little bit too far left, car coming the other way, and just, because you can't help but to go left sometimes, right, look over the line, and next you know, there's an accident, or it causes an accident, which is definitely a concern for all of us.
Yes.
It should be. So, are there any, you know, hey, this, what's your dispatch or anything, saying, hey, here's some choke points, and here, when you do give information, so the driver's a little bit more aware of what's ahead of them?
Yes, sir. I mean, it's a routine type of deal. They're
Okay.
in and out of there all day long,
Right.
you know. And certainly they understand that certain times of day,
Right.
you got to be more aware than others.
But dispatch plan will be new for all drivers, though.
Dispatch will be over all of the drivers.
Right, and then.
So they
but
have,
For this plant, it'd be the first couple weeks or so would be new.
correct.
Okay. And that's what I was trying to
Right.
ask. Kind of prep instead of be responsive, kind of be a little bit more proactive.
Mhm.
And saying, hey, here's some choke points, here's some of the curves that you may, especially as an engineer or whatever, may set your own guidance.
Well, certainly during an, initial training time or during the beginning of production, we could have someone there at the intersection, at our entrance, helping to get trucks in and out
Right.
of the site.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I had going back over my notes, I had something else highlighted I neglected to bring up the first time. And it pertains to the above-ground fuel storage tanks. And the response to that question was, how do you protect it against damage? And it says, second sentence says, in addition, if required by the Comal County Fire Marshal, bollards can be placed around the perimeter of the tank. That implies that it's something that if we ask for, you guys would be amenable to if the city asked for it?
Sure.
Is that what you're saying?
It's a double wall, concrete lined tank. It doesn't require any auxiliary containment, but we can certainly add bollards to it. That's,
Yeah, and the fire marshal requires it's called a UL 2085 tank. It's a fire guard tank. It's a double-walled tank, but it has built-in impact protection in it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got a concrete in between the two shells of the tank.
Mm-hmm.
So that's its impact protection that meets the fire code. So sometimes we will also put bollards around that in addition to the intrinsic impact protection that's already in the tank.
Okay. Is that something the city might think about asking for, Nancy? I'm sorry. Okay. That's all I had.
Anyone else? Okay. Oh, you do? Okay.
On the subject of hazards, well, before I mention that, just a note, we could probably talk quite a bit about traffic and such, but those roads are also, I'll say, fairly dilapidated. There is no shoulder that I'm aware of, and what I'll call it is, you said like hills or turns, but there's like whoopty-doos out there too. You go too fast and, you're bouncing. So if a concrete truck moving at 45 miles an hour, I can only imagine what that would be like. Moving on to specifically my question with hazards, I believe that there's hazards associated with a concrete batch plant, the production, dust, inhalation hazards, those kinds of things. Again, I'm a novice with this, reading like a ready-mix bag. I know you don't want to inhale the dust, that kind of thing. I think that there's regulation out there, no more than 5 pounds of dust in the air. You know, it's supposed to be contained at a rate of that much or less. And in addition to that, again, from a novice perspective, it sounds like there's other chemicals that go into the cement mix in order to make it more fluid-like, to, best pour, to pump through lines and things like that, plasticizers. That's about as much as I know as far as hazards, but I'm curious, what all do you, what are you aware of as far as the hazards with the batch plant and the risk to the community?
So the cement storage has dust collectors on the tops of them. And then where the trucks actually load, there's a central dust collection system. So it's shrouded around the truck, around the back part of the truck, from the top and from the sides. And then it is sucking any products that are, that don't enter the truck. And then that is on a recycle system that then puts it back into the silo to be reused. And then the silo top dust collectors, well, they're just simply capturing, since the product is pushed up pneumatically, then the air has to have a place to escape. So it goes through that dust collection system, filtering out all the cement and keeping that back inside the silos.
So are the individual materials that are mixed to make the concrete or cement, are those individual materials a hazard in and of themselves that will be stored on the property, or are they a hazard once they're mixed and then moved through the batch plant?
The only hazard to concrete is it's high alkali, and so if you have wet concrete on you and you don't wash it off, you could get a cement burn from that. But as a dry product, or all the products are separate, no, there's no hazard to them. And the admixtures are typically either sugar-based or salt-based, and they're zero as far as their hazards, really.
Okay.
And we just to
They're
expand on the
non-flammable.
admixtures, we deal a lot with the Edwards Aquifer Authority. And so the admixture providers around this area are very knowledgeable about the Edwards Aquifer Authority doesn't consider any of those to be hazardous materials under their regulations for the admixtures. There
Okay.
are some admixtures out there. If you Google them, you'll find some that would be, but in this area, particularly because of the Edwards Aquifer, the providers here are using the organic ones, the ones that aren't considered hazardous materials.
So there's no carcinogenic or carcinogen risk with the air particles or mixture? Okay. And nor with the chemicals that are inserted into the mix and stored on the property?
I mean, the only thing would be with the cement dust. If you look that up, if you get cement, but like you said, the cement comes in a enclosed container. It's never exposed to air. It goes straight up pneumatically to the silo. It's got the dust collectors to keep that from escaping, and then it goes into the truck as part of the wet mix. And it's not, TCQ regulates that very, very highly. That's what the air permit is intended to protect.
Okay.
And the air permit is considered protective of the public, which they've already received from TCQ for this facility.
And then is there a hazard radius around a concrete batch plant that's of significance? I guess with any type of plant, industrial type production, that there is some kind of hazard radius associated with the kind of work that will be done there.
I'm not aware of anything defined as a hazard radius around a ready-mix plant.
Okay.
I mean,
All right. Again, doing some just basic searches, I found some different types of radiuses around concrete batch plants. I'm not going to, speak about them tonight, but it's just something I want to highlight, just for awareness.
I mean, if you look at the air permit, there is a radius defined there, but it's not a hazard radius. It's just it's a notice radius for public notice as who may be considered potentially affected parties in a air permit. But there, so that you can, if you Google it, you'll find radiuses associated with batch plants. But they're not defined by hazard or necessarily technically. They don't have any technical merit, in my opinion. They don't have any technical merit to say like these people within this radius are experiencing some hazard.
Okay. Yeah, just doing some novice research, I found that, I guess, concrete batch plants are on the rise. People are moving in. I think they said maybe 12 to 1,400, new homes within Texas. A large portion of that, I believe, is in San Antonio. So I can only imagine, like as Commissioner Miller brought up, that the business is going to be getting better, as time goes on. For how long, I don't know. But I did note that there was a different radius. One of them was 5 miles. That seemed to be like a high hazard. And from what I could tell, that would more or less encompass Garden Ridge. That's, again, what I found online. You got to be careful, right? But I would want to know more about that personally.
I was about to say, I would caution,
Cement production.
I would caution you, it's very common when we're dealing with a ready-mix concrete plant versus a cement plant. They're very different things. The cement plant is the big, huge thing you see out there in New Braunfels. That is a very different, that's a Title V air permit. It's a huge deal. It's very different. In the TCQ for air permitting, these are considered what's called a minor source. That is a major source. So when you Google, the terms get used, concrete plant and cement plant, almost synonymously on the internet, but it can be very difficult because we get that comment a lot in public meetings we do for TCQ. People get very confused with the terminology versus a cement plant and a ready-mix concrete batch plant.
Okay, and this is a concrete batch
This
plant?
is a ready-mix concrete batch
Got
plant,
it.
yes, and it is considered a minor source under TCQ's air emissions.
Thank you.
Did you want to say something, or I have a question for them?
Right. What I'm going to remind the commission as a whole is, remember, our review of their plan is as to the city's current regulations. So the fact that, what I would like to point out is, while it's very good to have these questions regarding, the traffic issues, the air hazard, and whether they're TCEQ permitted and such, we are completely preempted on that, so that cannot go into the decision-making process.
Okay, I have a question. And maybe you got to answer it and I missed it or something, but for example, on the letter dated February 25th, there's some attachments, and there's almost like a silo here of this going up. What is the height of that silo?
The top of the silo is 80 feet.
80? 80?
Yes, ma'am.
But what that drawing is the ag bin, which
Oh,
is
okay.
shorter
Yeah,
than the silo.
I mentioned that,
Yeah.
so maybe you could pull up it's February 25th. And it's got the picture of almost like a,
It's the plan, it's the
yeah,
radio stacker and the ag.
yeah.
The height is there. I want to say that's
You can't see.
25, 28 feet maybe right there, something like that.
Maybe on the right-hand side if you scroll over, yeah, right
Yeah.
there. About 30 feet right there to the very top of the conveyor.
Yeah,
28 feet is the,
yeah, for that piece, that section of it.
So what were you thinking might be 80 feet?
The cement storage silos are 80 feet.
Cement storage silos, and I guess,
Yeah.
we don't have pictures of those, do we?
I thought I saw something pop up a second ago which had a picture of the silos. I don't know where that was clicked to. It was an actual picture.
Maybe with the wall.
That's the dust collector.
I don't see it.
How many silos are being proposed?
2.
2? And they're 80 feet tall?
One of them is.
Oh, one.
Yeah, the other one is shorter.
Okay, well, while she's looking for that, and maybe won't find it, but the picture she's got up right now, what I do want to tell you is, personally, I appreciate the fact that you have put this batch plant at the very back of the property, toward the railroad tracks, and the area that's in front of it that says 33.67 acres, what's going to be there? Anything, at least at this point, nothing?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so in the shrubbery, the trees and all are all along the front of that property along 2252. So that does provide some barrier or, hiding the plant, if you will.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions?
Well, I'd like to go back to, I guess, the proposed silos. I know in our current ordinance, the height restriction is 35 feet in height. So will you, I guess, I'm assuming you'll be asking for a variance for that 80-foot tall
Yes,
silo?
sir.
Okay.
So will that variance request go to city council or to planning? and
That
zoning?
would go to city council.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so if there are no more questions?
I do have a tendency to ask too many questions, so please, ma'am, take my chair if you need to. So in our ordinance, Ordinance 13, Bullet 725, it addresses buffer zones for industrial zones close to family residential. From what I can tell, Google Maps and driving by that road, there is what looks to be a family residence fairly close, just to the west of the concrete batch plant proposed location. And I'm curious, what considerations do you all offer within a certain distance maybe of single family residences?
Such as,
Well, we have a buffer zone
Yeah.
in the ordinance. I'm just curious if you all consider that.
I mean, I think we're planning a town hall meeting with some of the neighbors in the area. mean,
And I
we're-
believe the issue is that those particular residential areas may not fall within the city's zoning.
But I think.
Yes,
but I think
ma'am.
the
So my-
consideration is also the fact that we put the site where we did at the
Yeah.
back of the property. Knowing that there's some other residences to the north and across 2252. I mean, the placement of the plant on this site particularly is, we want to be kind of as far away from anybody as we can.
Okay, yeah. And I just bring it up as a note. I don't know what, again, ma'am, as city attorney, I don't know if we have any relationship with shirts and such as far as considerations that way. Just something to bring up as a note that I observed.
Okay, so you will be going to city council for variance requests more than likely on that higher silo. But right now, yes, you are in the correct zoning area for this batch plant. But when we were going over questions, there was a question about floodplain. And you said that you probably needed to look into that and bring back some information. And I do know that TxDOT is responsible for the roads and all. And believe me, I think the city talks to TxDOT quite a bit. But City Attorney, is it possible to, because we know this is going to go to City Council probably for the variance and all, but instead of us saying, oh yeah, well, they're in the right place, can we actually table this discussion and have them come back with some more information on the floodplain and possible discussions that you might have had with TxDOT? I mean, let me tell you why. It
On the
is-
floodplain, yes.
Okay, on the floodplain. Okay, fine, on the floodplain. But I would also recommend that you on your own, because you are going to get pushback from the citizens of Garden Ridge. There's no helping it, because it is so narrow a road and all, and, people are concerned about the middle school and all. Again, that has nothing to do with our purview, but what I would recommend is that we actually table this discussion until you can come back with some information that you might have been able to find or determine on the fact that part of that pond is in the 100-year floodplain, and before we push it onto city council, or
Yes.
before we actually make a recommendation. Other than we could say, they're in the correct zoning area,
Well, I guess I just may ask, I do believe we had a review from the city engineer, and there were no comments
'Cause-
brought forth from the city engineer, and it would be our intent to address that through the process. We will address, we'll show no adverse impact, and we will make sure that all
Right.
that is met, but there weren't any specific comments regarding that from the city engineer, so I didn't think that was a issue at this time. It was something we would intend to address through the process.
Well, I think maybe the city engineer, I mean, there's, Nancy, what did you say that is the city's purview with regard to the floodplain?
City engineers are floodplain administrators.
They are the floodplain administrator, and they might have missed it. I don't know. It did come up in the discussion here. I mean, the best we could probably do if the commission did not want to table this for a little further discussion, would be to say, they're in the right place, you know, they're in the right zone, but we still have questions, and, you know, I don't know. Am I out of place here? By saying, could they possibly come back with the information before we make a recommendation to city council?
Hang on just a minute. Nancy's reviewing the engineer's comments.
Just looking to see if you had a comment, it was in this letters. I'm not finding any comment that he made concerning,
Okay.
concerning that in his letters.
Chairwoman Diaz, what I would recommend then is that if this otherwise meets the development requirements of the city, this can go forward contingent on those floodplain questions being answered
To city council.
to city council.
That's fine. I just want to make sure that if we make a recommendation, that it's understood there's still information that I think that is pertinent to the city for them making their decision.
Right, because if we don't answer it here, we will have to have it answered there.
Okay,
Yep, I'm more than happy to provide that answer to city council.
very good, okay. Okay, having gone through all that, are there any last questions? Okay, now you say.
Using your 200 trips a week, a day, as the maximum, that is 1,000 a week with a 66,000-pound truck full and a 27,000-pound truck empty. What's that going to do to our roads? I know it belongs to TxDOT, but it just seems to me like that we're just, this maybe shouldn't be where it should be.
I don't know what specs the road is built to, other than, it's designed to handle that kind of traffic. And the trucks are, I don't know what to say, really.
Well, I do know that the trucks, as trucking industry, the commercial trucks, the part of the licensing and taxing for that goes to repair roads specifically for truck traffic. This is a state road, so we will be working with TxDOT to work out, the entrance and the driveway and put the traffic on the road that's designed to carry these types of businesses. So the road isn't load limited or anything from what I'm aware of. So usually when TxDOT has a concern with that, they'll load limit a road. But
Have you driven the road?
Yes.
Both of you?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. It's not very good. And we already get a lot of Hanson traffic, of the big trucks. So this is just going to exacerbate the whole thing, so. All right. Last call. We're good.
Yes, ma'am, I got one more note.
Oh.
Okay, sorry. Just concerned about the noise. I know that there's noise ordinance and such, and then if the trucks are operating at 0500 or maybe earlier. I guess in summer it's going to be hotter. You probably want to work earlier. There are family residences that are right off 2252 that will get that concrete truck noise. So I'm just curious, and then also with the batch plant, I'm thinking about horns going off. I know they have, with the quarry, you hear the siren go off before a blast, that kind of thing. What kind of horns, noise, lights, and
We
such?
don't operate any horns. The trucks, the equipment does have backup alarms, which we could convert to a white noise alarm as opposed to the typical beeping one that you hear. And then other than that, noise-wise, I mean, we've been in lots of areas. It's, you know, I think we're 1,000 feet from the roadway. I don't think we're going to be much noticed.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so I would like to request a motion, and if the motion is to be to recommend to City Council for the next stage, it needs to say in there that they still need to bring back the information on the floodplain question we had. So I'm opening it up for a motion.
I make a motion to make a recommendation of, to the city council for the master development plan for Guadalupe ready mix for the development of a concrete batch plant on property located at 2762 FM 2252, provided they provide information on the 100-year floodplain with city council. Also, any other discrepancies that they identify for any variance or any other type of authorizations.
Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to... On it went off. A motion has been made and seconded that we forward a recommendation to City Council with regard to Guadalupe Ready Mix. And realistically, it is for the fact that you are in the right zone for this plant. There are other questions, and you will bring all that information back to City Council, right? Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, so this will go forward to City Council.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next item is item 5D, Planning and Zoning Commission activities and projects. We have some information that Commissioner Crowe is going to give us on water runoff as it relates to impervious cover.
Actually, mainly because of the change in our purview, I'm skipped it and we'll table it for a future
Another
date
time.
if it comes, if it
Okay.
arises.
So that item will not be presented tonight or discussed? Okay. Item 5E, future agenda items. Does anyone want to add to put down any items that you want to discuss at future meetings?
I would like more clarification on the development along Back Cave. I listened to it on the video. I didn't attend city council, but I'm unclear about the acreage, the concerns that other people have about the traffic and traffic flow in our city. And I'm not putting you on the spot now. I'm talking about for next month, Nancy.
One thing you need to understand, Dr. Miller, is, correct me if I'm wrong, the development on Bat Cave is in the county. It is not in the city of Garden Ridge. Is that correct?
That's what I was going to clarify or ask for clarification on. Are you talking about the development that's occurring outside the city of Garden Ridge on Bat Cave?
I am in fact talking about the development that's
Okay.
outside the city on Bat Cave because it impacts traffic through our city. And listening to the discussion, which was limited last month, I had some questions I couldn't do over video, and I wasn't in attendance. But I don't know the whole outline of the proposed project and the future changes it may entail, to be able to voice an opinion for or against, not that it make a difference, how I feel about it, and how, if there was a opportunity for activism against some of the things that is going to happen around us. We always talk about Bracken and how they have more lax codes and ordinances than we do. And if everything around us is going to have lax codes and ordinances, I'd like to know what's coming down the road so I can think about it clearly. And it may be something that's just going to keep me up at night, or it may be something I can't do anything about one way or the other. But I'd like to know more about it than what I heard at City Council.
Okay, we do an update on that for the agenda.
I apologize. Did I miss it in the past, or was it discussed at all?
No, it's
Okay.
really at the last council meeting.
Did I hear that that particular, well, there's going to
This
be.
is not an
Oh, that's
agenda
true.
item, so
That's
we
true.
really
That's
can't
true.
discuss it.
That's true.
We can
Put it on the.
put it on the next agenda as an update.
Well, Nancy, I do have a question in regards to that report that Tri-Hydro made. The Bat Cave Road Master Plan, Development Plan, that's not the one outside?
No, that is not.
That's inside the city, right?
That is inside the city, and I think that may kind of
Right.
not be going forward.
Yeah, that's where I wanted to clarify that.
That is not related to, for clarification purposes,
Right.
no.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next, anything else? Okay. Item E2, 5E2. The next Planning and Zoning meeting will be June 8th at 6 p.m. here at City Hall. We move on to item 6, which is citizens' comment period. If anyone would like to speak, you may come up to the podium. And then afterwards, you will sign with a sheet with either Kat or Marissa. I don't think anybody is out there that wants to speak. If not, okay, then we move on to requests for adjournment.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. To adjourn. All in favor? Okay, and that means no one's opposed. Thank you very much.